Learning the lyrics to songs that you love in Spanish is one of the best ways for you to retain more vocab because you have an emotional connection to that song. And it has been studied and proven that when you have an emotional connection to the words that you're learning, you remember them so much better. Before the word abeja, which means bee in Spanish, had filed itself into my long-term memory, I had a hard time recalling that word because I wasn't talking about bees all that often in Spanish. However, a song that I love that I had learned the lyrics to had the word abeja in it. So whenever I needed to remember it, I would just sing that line. Como panal de abeja queda bien, abeja. Vocab is the key to unlocking your Spanish. It is what enables you to understand more of what people are saying to you. And it's what enables you to communicate effectively. Your grammar errors are forgivable if you have enough vocab to get your point across. And that's where we want to start. You continue to polish grammar as you continue to practice speaking. But without sufficient vocab, you can't even hope to practice speaking because good luck having a conversation with 20 words. Hello and welcome to Learn Spanish a lo Boricua. This is episode 2 of our 5-episode mini-series of a deep dive into Bad Bunny's new album, Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. In the first episode, we covered tracks 1 through 5. Today, we're covering tracks 6 through 9. Yo los noto confundido is like saying, y'all seem confused. The verb notar in Spanish means to notice. This is a very important vocab word, so make sure you write it down. Or you could sign up for our Patreon page where we are creating a flashcard deck for Bad Bunny's new album, Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. All of the vocab, the phrases, the slang that I review in these episodes is going to be available to you on a ready-made flashcard deck for you to study. Just $5 a month gives you access to all of the vocab decks we make from these episodes, as well as the transcripts of our conversations. Notar means to notice, but it has some different uses, and we wouldn't necessarily think to structure our sentences this way in English. For example, te noto triste is a very common thing to say, a very natural construct in Spanish. But in English, that translates literally to, I notice you sad. You would never think to put this together like this. And this is the importance of interpreting versus translating. The reality is that languages simply do not directly translate. So you have to know how that line would naturally sound in English in order for it to be something you can imagine yourself using. Te noto triste is like saying, you seem sad. I notice you sad. How would we say that in English? You seem sad. So back to yo lo noto confundido, we're talking about los, ustedes, right? Or los could also be for they, right? This could be y'all seem confused or they seem confused. But in this song, it really seems like he's speaking to the people. Tú andas con lo tuyo, yo ando con lo mío, aborrecido. I talked to you guys about andar in the last episode. And again, going with interpreting instead of translating, we're also trying to keep the vibe, the essence of reggaeton, of hip hop, of rap. So you want to think of this as like you're out there. You're out there with your people, los tuyos, your people, right? You're going around with your people, and I'm out here with mine. Aborrecido here is used like bitter, angry, kind of having a bad attitude, resentful towards life. Okay? Here we're seeing it masculine and plural. Y'all need to remember that the S is dropped in Puerto Rico, no solamente en Puerto Rico, but in regions all over the Spanish-speaking world. It comes from Spain. There are regions in Spain where the S is not pronounced. Also, coming from Spain is the dropping of the letter D. So this would be like any other adjective. Think of cansado, emocionado, frustrado. This would be aborrecido, aborrecida, aborrecidos, aborrecidas. But in PR, they're often going to drop the D, and the S at the end will be aspirated, kind of a breath out, right? This is why this looks like aborrecido instead of aborrecidos. This is Puerto Rico. Here, nobody stops at the stop signs. I gotta admit, I haven't had much of a gangster life myself, but I believe the implication here is that you don't stop at the stop sign because you'll get shot. I just would like to give some context because I do live in PR. A lot of people do stop at the stop signs and you don't get shot at the stop signs necessarily. Maybe in some areas, maybe if there's already beef and etc. But don't be scared. This is just kind of along the maleanteo bad guy lyrics.
Pero con estos cabrones no me comparen. No, por favor no me comparen.
But with those bleeps, don't compare me. No, please don't compare me.
Que ustedes saben ya que no soy normal. No, ay.
I would translate this last line as, y'all know by now that I'm not normal. No, you're not, Benito. You are one of a kind.
No aclaro duda, piensa lo que tú quieras, que me odie el que me odie, que me quiera el que me quiera.
Here again, Bad Bunny is responding to some of the criticism he's got, some of the backlash. He's saying, yo no aclaro dudas. Dudas means both doubts and also it's used for a question. So here we could translate this as, I'm not clarifying your doubts, or I'm not really clarifying your questions, I'm not responding to your questions. Think what you want. Remember in the video that I did that sort of launched this series, I broke down the title of Nadie sabe lo que va a pasar mañana, and we talked about that lo que means what in a statement, right? Think what you want. Think whatever you want. This is in the subjunctive because it's like, think whatever you would want to think, okay? Let he who hates me hate me, and he who loves me love me. Going back to interpreting, using he who doesn't really feel like a reggaeton vibe. So let's say, if they hate me, let them hate me, and if they love me, let them love me. That would be a better interpretation of the vibe of this song. Days without sleeping. In one of the first episodes of this podcast, I talked to y'all about the structure of sin with a verb afterwards, right? In English, we'd always use it with an ing, without sleeping, without working, without knowing. In Spanish, you just keep it in the infinitive. Días sin dormir, days without sleeping. Mira las ojeras. These are ojeras, guys. The dark circles under your eyes are ojeras. Again, all this vocab ready-made for you on flashcard decks via our Patreon page. The link to sign up is right there in the YouTube description or in the podcast description if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. Scroll down, click the episode notes, and there you'll find the link to sign up. All right, friends, that's all we'll look at for Cybertruck. Let's move on to Bo 787. Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. Now I'm a model, fotito pa Vogue, photos for Vogue. What I just wanted to remind you guys here is that foto is feminine. It's just a shortening of the word fotografía. So la foto, just a reminder.
787 cabrón, aunque me mude pa Marte va a ser el code.
787, bleep. Even if I move to Mars, that's going to be the code. 787 is the most common area code in PR. There's really just two, 787 and 939, 939. In the video I did reacting to Drake's rap in his song with Bad Bunny, Gently, I talked about the use of aunque and whether it follows just with a regular verb or if it's followed with a subjunctive, and how the meaning of aunque changes depending on the verb afterwards. Aunque me mudo is although I move, but because he used the subjunctive afterwards, the meaning of aunque changes to even if. Okay, so 787, his area code. Even if I move to Mars, that's going to be the code. Even if I move. That's all I've got for Bo 787. Moving on to Seda. Not much I could say about this song, besides not being one of my personal favorites. It's also quite explicit. Think that we're playing the game of Clue, okay? But instead of Colonel Mustard in the billiards room with the candlestick, this is about two adults in the bedroom with silk. That's all I'm going to say about that. My dad watches my YouTube channel. Moving on. Gracias por nada.
Hey, no sé si cachaste lo que te quise decir.
No sé si cachaste lo que te quise decir. I don't know if you caught, cachar, to catch. How convenient. What I wanted to tell you. There's what again as lo que. You need this.
Hey, aunque me llame tu mai, aunque aparezca tu pai.
Again, we're looking at aunque with the subjunctive afterwards. So here it means even if. Even if your mom calls me. Even if your dad appears, okay? Mai and pai are common nicknames for your mom and dad in Puerto Rico. Okay, even if your mom calls me, even if your dad shows up.
Aunque baje Jesucristo y nos vuelva a bendecir.
That aunque with the subjunctive again, even if Jesus Christ comes down to bless us again. Vuelva a bendecir. Bendecir is to bless. To, when you use volver a with another verb, it means to do something again, right? Volver a verte. That means to see you again. Verte, to see. Volver a, again. Okay, so using volver a plus another verb helps you form to do that action again. So even if Jesus Christ comes down and blesses us again.
Lo nuestro no lo vuelvo a revivir, no lo vuelvo a revivir.
So lo nuestro, that which was ours, again, doesn't feel like the right interpretation in this context. I won't revive our thing again, what was ours again, our relationship again. Otra vez, we see volver a with a verb. So it's to revive again what was ours. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. Next week, we'll take on the next couple tracks starting with Teléfono Nuevo. Leave a comment if you're enjoying this series. Share it with other people that love Bad Bunny and would love to learn Spanish with him. That helps me get out to more people. Be sure to sign up for Patreon if you're interested in getting the flashcard decks, transcripts of our conversations, and etc. See you in the next episode.